Mr. T, 40, and his wife, Miss H, of the same age, were rushed to the hospital in a harrowing state. Their skin was as parched as parchment, their lips cyanotic, and the whites of their eyes had turned a haunting murky yellow. Mr. T collapsed onto the gurney, his calloused hands clutching his right upper quadrant, drenched in a cold sweat and moaning in agony. He managed to wheeze out that it felt as though 1,000 serrated blades were relentlessly twisting deep inside his abdomen, making it impossible to even straighten his back. In the adjacent bed, his wife was trapped in her own life and death nightmare. She was plagued by persistent bilious vomiting, her body so depleted and frail that she resembled a withered leaf, unable to even stand. Amidst the excruciating pain, Mr. T's gaze remained fixed on his wife, a look of profound helplessness and sheer terror, sensing that something catastrophic had befallen them both. Emergency diagnostics revealed a grim reality. Ultrasound imagery showed massive, nodular tumors ruthlessly compressing the bile ducts within both of their livers. The doctors entered a devastating diagnosis into their medical records: hepatocellular carcinoma, a primary malignancy of the liver epithelium. In a single heartbeat, the couple received a double death sentence, never suspecting that the culprit was a simple daily habit, their decision to save money by eating moldy fruit. 5 years ago, T and H were hard-working fruit vendors in a modest local market. In the sweltering heat and humidity of their storage area, crates of oranges, mangoes, and apples frequently bruised, rotted, and succumbed to mold. Driven by a spirit of extreme frugality and the pain of seeing their hard-earned capital go to waste, they refused to throw the spoiled produce away. Every evening they would use a small knife to meticulously trim away the blue and white moldy patches, scooping out the soft, rotten flesh. They convinced themselves that the remaining fruit, still appearing fresh and sweet, was perfectly safe to eat. They wanted to save every penny for their children's education, naively believing that as long as the dirty parts were gone, the rest was harmless. How did a frugality born of family love lead their internal organs into a desperate war for survival? For years, the initial symptoms were subtle and insidious. T felt a dull backache and slight pressure in his side, but he brushed it off as the physical toll of hauling heavy crates. H noticed her complexion darkening and a loss of appetite, but she self-diagnosed it as mere exhaustion from the grueling market hours. Like many laborers, they feared the hospital and the crushing weight of medical bills, choosing instead to grit their teeth and rely on over-the-counter painkillers. This stoic but misguided endurance allowed their livers to be systematically executed in the shadows. Oncology experts launched a rigorous medical investigation to identify the culprit. The first hypothesis was alcohol-induced cirrhosis, a classic cause of liver cell destruction. However, T and H insisted they were teetotalers with a very disciplined lifestyle, so that theory was quickly discarded. Next, doctors looked toward Asia's most notorious killers, hepatitis B and C. Yet, their serology results showed extremely low viral loads, nowhere near enough to trigger such massive, aggressive, and simultaneous malignancies in a husband and wife. The clinical investigation hit a mysterious dead end. Their livers weren't being eroded by viruses or destroyed by alcohol, yet they exhibited brutal, mutational damage characteristic of high-dose chemical exposure. The breakthrough came during a detailed consultation. Suspicious of why both spouses were afflicted, a gastroenterologist inquired about their daily habits. When H honestly recounted their habit of trimming and eating moldy oranges and bananas to save on living costs, the doctor's expression froze. The final piece of the puzzle had been found. The invisible enemy wasn't a lifestyle of excess, but a lethal microorganism, Aspergillus mold. When you see a single speck of green mold on an apple's skin, that is merely the flowering part releasing spores. Beneath the surface lies a vast network of mycelium, fungal roots, that has already infiltrated the seemingly healthy flesh. These roots pump out a deadly compound called aflatoxin B1. This toxin possesses an almost immortal resilience, capable of withstanding extreme temperatures up to 280 degrees Celsius. This means that whether you boil, steam, or roast the fruit, the toxin remains completely intact. When T and H consumed these fruits, aflatoxin B1 entered their bloodstream and headed straight for the liver. There, a physiological tragedy unfolded. The liver, in its attempt to detoxify, released cytochrome P450 enzymes. However, this process inadvertently converted aflatoxin B1 into a highly aggressive intermediate called epoxide. This epoxide acts like a molecular suicide bomber. It pierces the cell nucleus and strikes the DNA chain. Its sole target is the p53 gene, known in medicine as the guardian of the genome. The p53 gene's job is to detect faulty cells and force them into programmed cell death, apoptosis. Once aflatoxin B1 strangles and disables this guardian, defective liver cells lose their kill switch. They begin to divide uncontrollably and multiply infinitely, forming devastating cancerous tumors. The International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC, part of the WHO, has officially classified aflatoxin B1 as a Group 1 carcinogen, confirming it as one of the most potent biological toxins ever discovered by humanity. What was the final treatment protocol to snatch their lives back from the brink? T's condition allowed for a partial hepatectomy, liver resection, followed by grueling cycles of chemotherapy to target residual cancer cells. For H, however, the outlook was much bleaker. The tumor had grown too large, severely obstructing her biliary tract and causing acute liver failure. Doctors had to place a biliary drain to relieve the pressure, transitioning her to palliative care to manage the excruciating pain in her final days. Despite the best medical technology and effort, the DNA-level damage caused by aflatoxin B1 is often irreversible. We must wake up and change our habits. Do not let this tragedy repeat itself in your own kitchen. At global medical conferences, the Food Safety Commission of Japan has shared data showing that they have successfully controlled aflatoxin through ironclad regulations, limiting total toxins to no more than 10 parts per billion, ppb. The Japanese adhere to a philosophy of absolute safety. If a piece of fruit or grain shows even a microscopic speck of mold, the entire item is discarded immediately. There is no such thing as trimming the mold. The survival lesson here is absolute. Never gamble with your life or the lives of your family just to save the cost of a few pieces of decaying fruit. The price of that frugal mistake could be every cent you've saved in your lifetime, spent instead at an oncology center. Thank you for watching. Please take good care of yourselves. Stay healthy.